Chris Griffin, the lovable, sometimes clueless but always hilarious son of the Griffin family. He may not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but he's definitely got a tool or two that can make us laugh. Today we're diving into some of Chris's most side-splitting, underrated jokes, and trust me, these moments will have you rolling on the floor and possibly questioning the meaning of life. Ready? Let's get into it. In Season 2, Episode 2, Lois asks the family to clean the house, but Peter turns it into a complete disaster. Fed up, Lois tells him to get out of the house. So Peter and Chris head off to join John and the others for a camping trip in the woods.
So beautiful.
While they're out fishing, they catch absolutely nothing. Returning to camp, they hope for some food, but Chris reveals that the food's been stolen by a raccoon. Not only does Chris tell them, he shows them the entire disaster in a hand-drawn sketch in his sketchbook.
I failed you as a father. From now on, Joe will be your father.
In one episode, Stewie Griffin is mistakenly identified as a girl, so to prove his masculinity, he joins the school's football team despite being tiny and, let's face it, completely unathletic. Surprise! Surprise things don't go as planned. Stewie ends up with a nasty concussion, complete with mismatched pupils and ringing phones in his head. Yeah, not looking good for Stewie. Brian and Chris now have to figure out how to fix him up without making things worse. And then, Chris, being the genius he is, comes up with the brilliant idea in movies. When someone gets hit on the head, they're magically cured. So naturally, Chris decides to test that theory and whacks Stewie in the head with a book.
Helmet for the inside.
Chris, are you crazy?
Genius move, Chris. If you thought that was the dumbest thing Chris ever did, then think again. This genius once learned an entire language just to impress a girl named Isabella. And any guesses which language he chose? Korean. Yeah, though she was Korean.
Also, I was wondering if there's any chance you maybe want to go out with me sometime?
Well, plot twist, turns out Isabella wasn't Korean. She was Mexican and speaks Spanish. Classic Chris. But the story doesn't end there. Isabella gets deported to Mexico and Chris, being the determined lover he is, decides to go find her. Good thing he spent all that time learning Korean because, well, it didn't help him at all. But hey, at least he pulled a girl like Isabella.
Goodbye, Chris.
Goodbye, Isabella.
So Korean or Spanish? Yeah, that's the question here. Chris Griffin has a lot of trouble with the Titanic mainly. He thinks it's called the Gigantic. To be fair, it was gigantic for its time, but still, this feels like we're really stretching out the pity for a kid here. Then, on top of that, Chris doesn't even know that the Titanic sinks. Yeah, you know, that small detail everyone knows about it. So, trying to prove to Stewie that he's not a complete moron, Chris decides to hop on what he calls a fancy boat. And of course, the fancy boat turns out to be none other than the Titanic with its name literally spelled out on it. So after Chris helpfully hits Stewie in the head with a book, Stewie ends up in the hospital, and Chris, of course, has some interesting ideas of his own. Chris walks into a room full of babies, what we call a nursery, and thinks it's a place where you can just pick up free babies. Yep, Chris is pretty excited about his discovery and just can't wait to show off his new find to Stewie and Brian.
There is a room where you can go in and just get free people.
And honestly, we can't help but laugh at his sheer excitement like he just found baby treasure or something. Good thing Brian steps in to redirect him, or else we'd have a whole new disaster on our hands. One more baby life ruined this time. Not Stewie. So, about that ruined life, you might have gotten the wrong idea, but here's what I meant. Meanwhile, Peter's watching TV and gets this sudden burst of inspiration about how he wants Stewie to be successful. Problem is, Chris has no clue what success even means, so of course, he asks the toaster what success is. Yes, you heard that right, a toaster. That's where Chris is going for life advice.
Computer, what does success mean?
And then, as if it couldn't get worse, Peter says this.
Chris, let me know when you're done with the computer.
Yeah, because the toaster's definitely gonna solve all your life problems, Chris. And there you have it. Chris Griffin's greatest hits proof that sometimes it's not about being the smartest guy in the room, but the funniest. Whether it's asking a toaster for life advice or getting hit in the head with a book to fix a concussion, Chris never fails to keep us in stitches. But hey, that's what makes him such an unforgettable character. Who needs success when you've got Chris Griffin logic, right? Gigantic boats, questionable life choices, and a few raccoons along the way. What's not to love? If you had as much fun as we did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more Griffin family shenanigans. Drop a comment below telling us your favorite Chris moment. And remember, if you're ever in doubt, just ask your toaster what success means. It'll definitely solve all your problems. Until next time, folks.